Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we are going to talk about Zelensky and some of the information that came out about some of the things that he might have suggested. Looks like he did. And whether or not it's a good idea. And the two questions that have come in are, could Ukraine really do this? And should Ukraine really do this? And those are two very different questions. And then I'm going to add a third one that nobody asked, but I think it's really important. Okay, so if you have no idea what I'm talking about, information came out that basically Zelensky in private has suggested some aggressive responses, such as taking and holding Russian dirt, taking some of their small towns along the border, and occupying them, or using or conducting missile strikes into Russian territory, stuff like this. Okay, so we will we'll just talk about the more extreme, taking and holding Russian dirt in response. Okay, so could they? Yeah. Ukraine could absolutely do that. Should they? That's a very different question. You have to think about what the Russian response would be to it. And this is why his generals have probably advised against this, apparently multiple times. So, if a Russian town gets taken, the Russian populace might respond by saying, hey, we're going to get invaded. And it provide a better justification for a wider mobilization. That's not good for Ukraine. You want them in the position they're in now, begging for troops. That's where you want them. You don't really want to give them a pretext to get people to sign up to be patriotic and all of that stuff, to free name of Russian city. Another risk is that, Putin is not the Putin of old. He is slipping. That is obvious. What if he views it as an existential threat to Russia and he decides to use strategic weapons, nukes? That's their doctrine. So you have that, but you also have the possibility that they decide to go full bore with it. Like, rather than use nukes, use something conventional, but level a town in Ukraine. If you're a Ukrainian soldier holding a Russian town and that happens, what might you do? Ukraine is winning on the PR front, the public opinion side of things. Ukraine is winning. I would not want to risk putting troops in a position where they might act on their own and do things that would undermine the public support that Ukraine has. And that's a consideration. By all accounts, Ukrainian troops have applied the laws of armed conflict pretty well, but they're not robots. And an extreme Russian response might provoke an extreme Ukrainian response, even if it wasn't ordered. And then you have the third thing. Taking it isn't holding it. Russia has demonstrated this over and over and over again. It's not the same thing. Ukraine could take it. There's no doubt in my mind. In fact, there's actually some, I don't want to say large, but big enough towns and cities that I think are within grasp. Holding it is something else. And you don't know how Russia would respond to that kind of move. So I personally don't think it's a good idea. from the actions that have actually happened, I have a feeling like Zelensky's generals are telling him the same thing. Then there's the third question. Should he say stuff like this, even in private? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because let me tell you something. Right now, Putin is getting that same report. Right now, Putin is sitting there thinking, wow, this guy's out there. He's thinking about taking Russian towns. It might influence leadership. The fear of it happening is probably more effective than actually doing it. So I don't think that he should curtail what he's saying. I think it would be very valuable for Russian leadership to view him as being held back by the generals, basically saying, yeah, do it. But his generals won't let him because they have to worry about their actions at that point. What would make the generals stop holding him back? That's a much better position to be in, much more valuable. If they can induce that fear enough, resources will be diverted to protecting Russian border towns. And every troop that's doing that isn't in Ukraine. So can they do it? Most of it, yeah, I think they can. Should they? I don't think so. Should he stop saying stuff like this? Nah. He should say wilder stuff, to be honest. But anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.